Hello and welcome. This is Susan Lopresti. You are listening to the Susan Lopresti Wellness, Mind, Body, and Soul podcast. I want to talk to you today about a topic that doesn't really seem like it's related to health and wellness, but actually I believe that it is, and I'd like to share a story with you. My friends and I were invited to a wedding in the Florida Keys, and one of my friends who owns a yacht thought it would be a great idea for us to meet in South Carolina and get on his yacht and sail to the wedding in the yacht. And it sounded like it was a wonderful plan, and we were really excited to do this. We spent a great deal of time methodically planning out this trip from the moment we land and get on the boat and how much time we're going to need to get to Florida Keys. And it was a perfect plan all the way around. And the ironic thing is that although we took so much time and energy to arrange this trip and plan it so methodically that it would just work out perfectly and we would arrive the day before the wedding, we had it planned to a T. And you know when you make a plan and sometimes the universe laughs at your plan? Well, that's exactly what happened to us. So apparently the universe didn't like the plan that we had chosen. And so it decided that it had a plan of its own for us. And that plan was not going according to what we wanted. It was going according to the way the universe wanted it to go. The first thing that happened was that we were flying into Charlotte, North Carolina. And we were supposed to be meeting our friends at a marina, and from that marina we were going to set sail. When we landed in Charlotte, North Carolina, we Googled the address of the marina that we were meeting our friends at. It said that it was 178 miles away. We were in Charlotte. We called our friend to confirm the address, and he said, yes, it's in Charleston. And we said, well, we're in Charlotte. We weren't supposed to go to Charlotte. We were supposed to go to Charleston, South Carolina. But what happened was when we went online to book the trip, and we put the first 3 or 4 letters into the search bar, Charlotte came up, and John, my boyfriend, was booking the trip, and he just assumed that that was correct, and so it was not correct, and it was a $680 cab ride, along with it being almost 3 hours away to get to Charleston. And we laughed it off, and we met our friends in Charleston, and we had dinner reservations at 5:30 in Charleston, and we walked into the restaurant at 5:23. And our friends weren't even there yet. So that was funny. And, it was the first night, and we went to this lovely restaurant. We had a fabulous meal. And then we left the restaurant, and we went back to the boat. And really, that's when the adventures begin. The first leg of the trip is that we're going to sail 10 hours to go to St. Augustine. However, we weren't planning to have 7-foot waves all the way to St. Augustine for 10 hours. I was awakened at 6 a.m. in the morning to the sound of the engine starting to fire up. And as we started to sail out of the marina, I already began to feel the boat rocking. I'm sitting in the bathroom on the toilet, and the boat is rocking back and forth, and I'm holding on to the bathroom sink for dear life. I get out of the bathroom and I work my way up the stairs to the first level, and I sit at the kitchen table with the stew, who hands me a cup of coffee, and the coffee is filled to the rim. It's really hard to drink a cup of coffee that's filled to the rim when the boat is rocking like crazy. I'm not facing the direction that we're moving in, but I'm facing the opposite way. I took a sip of coffee. I looked up, I looked out the window. I saw me going in the opposite direction. I felt like I turned green in every which color. I announced that I had to go to the bathroom. I ran downstairs, and literally whatever I had in my stomach came right up. It was just incredible. That boat was rocking from the moment I opened my eyes. And I worked myself up into a sweat, and I was pretty much green for the next 10 hours all the way to St. Augustine. The only saving grace was that I was not alone in my misery. 4 of us were sick. The other 2, which was my boyfriend John, he wasn't sick, but he also didn't eat anything. But Kim, who her and her husband owned this boat, she was not sick at all. She was actually drinking and eating and wanted to serve us lunch. And we were like, no way do we want to look at food. When we finally did get to St. Augustine, we were feeling better, and we were ready to have a great evening in St. Augustine. We had a beautiful dinner, and after dinner we took a horse and buggy ride around St. Augustine, and it truly is a beautiful city. It's the oldest city in the United States, and we got to learn a lot of history about the city, and it was just a great night. And then we proceeded to go back to the boat, and when we got back to the boat, my friend who owns the boat happened to know the boat that was docked next to us. So he decided that he was going to say hello to them. And he tells them what our plan is, and that the next leg of our trip, we were basically sailing south to Florida. And the owner of the boat said, "Didn't you hear? There's a hurricane brewing. You can't go south. You're going to be sailing right into that hurricane. You actually have to get out of St. Augustine before the hurricane." So now we had to change our course and go back up north. And we had to go to Jacksonville because supposedly at that point, Jacksonville was not going to get hit with the hurricane. And we also needed, once we got to Jacksonville, to get off the boat and take a hotel room, because even though we weren't going to be directly hit, we were going to have the effects of that hurricane, but it just wasn't going to be head on. And my friend who owns the boat did not want us on the boat, which we didn't want to be on the boat anyway. So now we had to take a hotel room for another 2 nights. So cha-ching, 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 right? We ride out the storm in Jacksonville, Florida for the next 2 days. Then we need to now rent a car and drive 6 hours to get to Marathon, Florida in time for this wedding. So everything and anything that could go wrong on this trip basically went wrong. And if that would have happened to some folks, they may not have been able to handle it the way we did. We made the best out of it, and we did have a great time. And although it didn't work out at all the way it was planned, we made some wonderful memories and had a wonderful time, including having a beautiful time at the wedding. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because life in general, you may have a plan, that you decide that you want for your life, and you could work out all the details step by step, and something can totally derail that plan for you. How do you handle that? Do you fight against the grain and what's happening? Or do you decide that you're going to just roll with it and change your course of action to work better with this new series of events that have come up that you just can't control? Like rolling with the waves, with those 7-foot waves that we were in, and make the best of it. Or do you fight against what's going on? Have you ever heard that saying, what you resist persists? It really is so true. And what I learned in life is that you need to be flexible, and you need to be able to handle what life hands you and make the best of it. Resisting what is just adds more stress to your life. And when you're stressed, your body tenses up. You start producing all these stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, and that puts you on high alert. And we don't need that in our life, because when these hormones turn on and they don't turn off right away, we're creating disease in our body. We're causing inflammation, and that inflammation will eventually lead to disease. We don't want that. It's so important to try to be conscious of your actions and be mindful of the way you handle yourself in situations, and do better, and whatever that may be for you, you need to learn to do better. And that may be by practicing meditation or breath work techniques, or practicing mindfulness. Because when you decide to just accept what is and go with the flow, life becomes so much easier. It really does. If your body is constantly stressed and constantly on high alert, and you're just never going with the flow, and you're always going against the grain and fighting for what you want, the way you think that something should be, and not just accepting of the way it is, you're really hurting yourself and you're hurting your body. And not only that, but you're also sabotaging the experience, because it may not be what you had planned. But if you let it go and you just accept what is and make the best of it, you may actually come out with a very unexpected and very happy outcome. You may just say, wow, this is something better than I could have ever imagined. But if you're resisting and you're trying to change the events and make them the way you think they should be, you're really going against the grain, and you're not trusting in the universe. And I just feel that this trip was truly a valuable lesson to me, because at the point when we talked about going on that 6-hour drive to Marathon, I began to sweat. My initial reaction was that I wanted to cancel the rest of the trip. I wanted to just say, forget about this trip. I'm taking a flight home after the hurricane passes, and I am not going to this wedding. But of course, I didn't want to travel home alone by myself, and everybody else was in for the rental car and to drive the 6 hours. And once I calmed down and I pulled myself together, I said, you know what? We've come this far, and we did have a plan, so let's rent the car and let's drive the 6 hours and let's get to this wedding. And so, even though I didn't want to go, I didn't want to be the person who was going to ruin it for everyone else. And that's why I kept my mouth shut. I got in the car, I said some prayers, I asked for a safe trip, because that's always a big fear of mine, is just traveling. So I asked the universe to please watch over us. And we put the radio on and we talked and we laughed some more. And it was a pleasant drive and it just worked out. And it truly was very memorable time that will be a memory for many years to come. And I made the best of this event, and we had a lot of laughs, and we stopped along this road trip, and we got there all in one piece, and everything worked out, and it was a wonderful experience. And although it didn't go as planned, we created some really beautiful memories, and it ended up to be a vacation that was like none other, but yet it was one of the most fun vacations that I have had in a very long time. And so it was a really good lesson for me to learn, and I've learned this lesson over and over and over again, because I remember when I first lost my corporate job of 27 years, the first 2 weeks I was truly devastated. I was devastated, I was scared, I was angry, I was in shock. I couldn't even describe to you all the emotions that I was feeling. And then one day, about 2 weeks after I was laid off, I woke up that day and I thought for a moment, and I said to myself, you know what? This is an opportunity of a lifetime for me. I'm going to be getting paid from this job for the next 14 months. It gives me the opportunity for the next 14 months to figure out what it is that I truly want to do with myself. And I had the time and the freedom and the money to do that. And you know, the funny thing, or the ironic thing, is that I was already certified as a health coach, and I was also certified as a Reiki healer. But I never really pursued it as a business because I was too busy working. I was out of my house every single day, 12 to 14 hours a day, between the commute and the hours that I put in on the job. So between working and commuting, by the time I got home in the evening, the last thing that I wanted to do was start working on my business and marketing myself and doing more work. Basically, when I got home in the evening, I was pretty much cooked. I was done for the day. So to finally do all the things that I've been waiting to do for so long, I decided that I was going to change my mindset. And I was going to look at this layoff from a place of gratitude and as a blessing. And so many things began to open up to me. And here I am. I'm on a podcast, which I never would have imagined I would do. My podcast has given me the opportunity to develop and create and put together something new and fresh for me. That was a completely different world from what I did at my job. Because at my corporate job, I was an analyst. I was a numbers person. I worked with numbers every day. Now, the other ironic thing is that I'm not a numbers person. Actually, I am the total opposite. I'm a creative person. I'm a right brain thinker. That is a creative, big picture person. An analyst is a left brain thinker. That's someone who's very analytical, very sharp, very quick to come up with a number. That's not me. But what happened was I fell into this job, or the job fell into my lap, let's say, and it was job security. And it was a salary that afforded me the luxury to be able to support myself and my daughter very comfortably. But I was miserable every day of my life in that job. And here it was, the universe handed me a gift, and I wasn't seeing it from that perspective. I was so caught up in the negative aspect of losing my job and what I was going to do for money, and coming from this place of lack and not having. And when I changed my thinking, when I started to see this as a blessing, when I started to see it as an opportunity, so many things came rushing in. At the right time, the right people came in to help me, to support me, to lift me up, to show me the way, to show me how to start a podcast. I got into an accountability group. I got into a business coaching group. I learned how to build a website. I created a blog. I created programs on social media. I'm doing videos. I'm promoting myself, and I'm doing it. And it's something that I absolutely love to do. It doesn't feel like work to me. It's wonderful to connect with so many beautiful people. And so if I didn't have this experience of losing my job and coming to acceptance with it, I may not have reacted to my vacation the way I just allowed myself to go with the flow, because that vacation truly went south from every aspect. And it's a pun on words because we were traveling south, but everything that could go wrong went wrong. We even had our captain abandon our ship in the middle of a hurricane. And we made adjustments, and we changed our course of plan, and we still got to the wedding on that Friday. So whatever it is that you're faced with, even if it wasn't part of your destiny, it wasn't part of your identical plan that you set in motion, what I'm here to tell you is learn to be flexible, learn to see the big picture, learn to adjust. It may not be to your liking, and it may not be what you asked for or what you wanted, but there could be a great opportunity if you just stop resisting and you go with the flow. And I'm here to tell you that if you do that, your health will be so much better. You will have less stress in your life, and you're going to open up opportunities and blessings that you can't even imagine. Everything like that will come into your life. I just want you to put some thought into that and think about something in your life that's happening right now. Ask yourself, is this going according to my plan? Is this an ideal situation? Maybe it's not an ideal situation for you. Instead of resisting, try looking at it from a different perspective and think, what could I do with this situation to make it better and make it more enjoyable? Try looking at it from a different perspective and think, what could I do with this situation to make it better or more enjoyable? What haven't I done? What kind of opportunity can I get from this? And that's what I'm here to share with you today. Nothing is an accident. Everything happens for a reason. At the time that it's happening, it could be devastating. Another example that I'll give you is that today is November 15th. It's actually my wedding anniversary. And I think it's probably maybe 36 years of marriage. I'm not married any longer. I've been divorced for about 13 years already. But at the time that my marriage was crumbling, it was the worst thing that I thought could ever have happened to me. I was devastated. I was destroyed. I can't even begin to tell you how devastated I was to end my marriage. And now I can't even begin to tell you what a blessing that divorce was in my life. Because everything that came after that divorce was beautiful and uplifting. and so much better than I could have ever had if I continued in that marriage. And even though today is my anniversary and I'm no longer married and connected to that person, it was a wonderful experience for me, because when you get to the lowest low in your life, you could really then truly appreciate the simplest and the littlest things that come your way. Anything and everything becomes a blessing when you've been at the lowest low and you're grateful for everything. So I say, let it go. Because if I didn't want to go against everybody else on this boat trip, I just felt like for the first moment, it was like I thought about that car ride and I had like this immediate dread of that. But then I thought, you know what? We're all in this together. It's not what we were expecting. It wasn't part of the plan, but everyone was all on the same page. And we went in and we made the best of this event and we had the best time. Created these memories and this laughter for many years to come. And that's what health is all about. Health is about enjoying your life. Health is about living and seeing everything from a positive aspect. Not everything in life is going to be positive. There will be disease, there will be death, there will be separation, and many, many disappointments that come our way. That's part of life. But how we handle them, that's what's important, because that's where growth comes from and maturity. It's how we handle whatever comes our way. Thank you so much for listening. I know this isn't a typical episode of getting healthy and staying healthy, but it's something that I wanted to bring light to, because these are the situations that happen all the time in life, and it's how we deal with them and how we move forward. It's what keeps us on the right path to health and wellness. Thank you again for listening. Have a beautiful day, everyone.